exFAT is a Microsoft file system optimized for flash drives. It is proprietary and Microsoft owns patents on several elements of its design. exFAT can be used where the NTFS file system is not a feasible solution, or where the file size limit of the standard FAT32 file system is unacceptable. exFAT has been adopted by the SD Card Association as the default file system for SDXC cards larger than. Overview. exFAT was first introduced in late 2006 as part of Windows CE 6.0, an embedded Windows operating system. Most of the vendors signing on for licenses of exFAT are either for embedded systems or device manufacturers that produce media that will be pre-formatted with exFAT. The entire FAT family, exFAT included, is used for embedded systems because it is lightweight and is better suited for solutions that have low memory and low power requirements, and can be implemented in firmware. exFAT allows individual files larger than, facilitating long continuous recording of HD video which can exceed the limit in less than an hour. Current digital cameras using FAT32 will break the video files into multiple segments of approximately 2 or, with the increase of capacity and the increase of data being transferred, the right operation needs to be made more efficient. SDXC cards running at as I have a minimum guaranteed write speed of 10 Mbps, and exFAT plays a factor in achieving that throughput through the reduction of the file system overhead in cluster allocation. This is achieved through the introduction of a cluster bitmap and elimination of writes to the FAT table. A single bit in the directory record indicates that the file is contiguous, telling the exFAT driver to ignore the FAT table. This optimization is analogous to an extent in other file systems, except that it only applies to whole files, as opposed to contiguous parts of files. exFAT is also supported in a number of media devices such as modern flat panel TVs, media centers, and portable media players. Some vendors of flash media, including USB pen drives, compact flash and solid-state drives, are shipping from the factory some of their high-capacity media pre-formatted with the exFAT file system. For example, SanDisk ships their 256 GB CF cards as exFAT. Technical specialities. File name lookup like NTFS and HFS+. exFAT is a proprietary file system. Microsoft asserts that exFAT is covered by U.S. Patent 8,583,708, awarded on November 27, 2013, and U.S. Patent 8,321,439. Quick file name lookup using name hash, which is an algorithm used in exFAT to speed up file searches. Microsoft had also applied for, and so far in some cases, received additional U.S. patents on separate components that are used within exFAT. Since Microsoft has not officially released the entire exFAT specification, the name hash patent application is a key document in providing internal details in the understanding of the file system, since those details were revealed in Appendix A of the application. File and cluster pre-allocation. Like NTFS, exFAT can pre-allocate disk space for a file by just marking arbitrary space on disk as allocated. For each file, exFAT uses two separate 64-bit length fields in the directory: the valid data length, which indicates the real size of the file, and the physical data length, to provide improvement in the allocation of cluster storage for a new file. Microsoft incorporated a method to pre-allocate contiguous clusters and bypass the use of updating the FAT table, and on December 10, 2013, the U.S. Patent Office granted patent US 8,606,830. One feature of exFAT provides atomic transactions for the multiple steps of updating the file system metadata. The feature, called transaction-safe FAT, or exFAT, was granted a patent by the U.S. Patent Office under U.S. 7,613,738 on November 3, 2009. Directory file set exFAT and the rest of the FAT family of file systems does not use indexes for file names, unlike NTFS, which uses B-trees for file searching. When a file is accessed, the directory must be sequentially searched until a match is found. For file names shorter than 16 characters in length, one file name record is required, but the entire file is represented by 3 32-byte directory records. This is called a directory file set, and a subdirectory can hold up to 2,796,202 file sets. To help improve the sequential searching of the directories, a hash value of the file name is derived for each file and stored in the directory record. When searching for a file, the file name is first converted to uppercase using the uppercase table and then hashed using a proprietary patented algorithm into a 16-bit hash value. Each record in the directory is searched by comparing the hash value. When a match is found, the file names are compared to ensure that the proper file was located in case of collisions. This improves performance because only 2 bytes have to be compared for each file. This significantly reduces the CPU cycles because most file names are more than 2 characters in size and each comparison is virtually only performed on 2 bytes at a time until the intended file is located. Metadata and checksums. exFAT introduces metadata integrity through the use of checksums. There are 3 checksums currently in use. The volume boot record is a 12-sector region that contains the boot record's BIOS parameter block, OEM parameters, and the checksum sector. The checksum sector is a checksum of the previous 11 sectors, with the exception of 3 bytes in the boot sector. This provides integrity of the VBR by determining if the VBR was modified. The most common cause could be a boot sector virus, but this would also catch any other corruption to the VBR. A second checksum is used for the uppercase table. This is a static table and should never change. Any corruption in the table could prevent files from being located because this table is used to convert the file names to uppercase when searching to locate a file. The third checksum is in the directory file sets. Multiple directory records are used to define a single file, and this is called a file set. This file set has metadata including the file name, timestamps, attributes, address of first cluster, location of the data, file length, and the file name. A checksum is taken over the entire file set, and a mismatch would occur if the directory file set was accidentally or maliciously changed. When the file system is mounted, and the integrity check is conducted, these hashes are verified. Mounting also includes comparison of the version of the exFAT file system by the driver to make sure the driver is compatible with the file system it is trying to mount, and to make sure that none of the required directory records are missing. If any of these checks fail, the file system should not be mounted, although in certain cases it may mount read-only. The file system provides extensibility through template-based metadata definitions using generic layouts and generic patterns, restrictive licensing and software patents. Microsoft has not officially released the complete exFAT file system specification, and a restrictive license from Microsoft is required in order to make and distribute exFAT implementations. Microsoft also asserts software patents on exFAT which make it difficult to re-implement its functionality in a compatible way without violating a large percentage of them. This renders the implementation, distribution, and use of exFAT as a part of free or open source operating systems or of commercial software, for which the vendors could not obtain a license from Microsoft, legally difficult, especially in countries that recognize United States software patents. Although exFAT is now widely supported, initially Mac OS X and many consumer devices could only handle FAT12, FAT16, and FAT32. The situation had formerly rendered exFAT, and flash memory formatted with it, impractical as a universal exchange format. Native Linux support for exFAT is still limited. As of 2010, a working implementation under Fuse exists, which reached version 1.0 in 2013. Features. The specifications, features, and requirements of the exFAT file system include these. File size limit of -1 byte, raised from -1 byte in a standard FAT32 file system. Therefore, for the typical user, seamless interoperability between Windows and OS X platforms for files in excessive scalability to large disk sizes. California. Maximum, recommended maximum, raised from the 32-bit limit of standard FAT32 partitions. Support for up to 2,796,202 files per directory only. Microsoft documents a limit of 65,534 files per subdirectory for their FAT32 implementation, but other operating systems have no special limit for the number of files in a FAT32 directory. FAT32 implementations in other operating systems allow an unlimited number of files up to the number of available clusters. Maximum number of files on volume California, 232-11. Free space allocation and delete performance improved due to introduction of a free space bitmap. Timestamp granularity of 10 milliseconds for create and modified times. Timestamp granularity for last access time to double seconds. Optional support for UTC timestamps. Optional support for access control lists. Optional support for texFAT, a transactional file system standard. Boundary alignment offset for the FAT table. Boundary alignment offset for the data region. Provision for OEM-definable parameters to customize the file system for specific device characteristics. On-disk storage of file-valid data length through the use of two distinct lengths fields which can be used to pre-allocate a file. Cluster size up to. Metadata integrity with checksums. Template-based metadata structures. Removal of the physical and directory entries that appear in subdirectories. exFAT does not support short file names. Windows XP requires update KB955704 to be installed and Windows Vista requires its SP to be installed. Windows Vista is unable to use exFAT drives for ReadyBoost. Windows 7 removes this limitation, enabling ReadyBoost caches larger than. The standard exFAT implementation is not journaled and only uses a single file allocation table and free space map. FAT file systems instead used alternating tables, as this allowed recovery of the file system if the media was ejected during a write. The optional texFAT component adds support for additional backup tables and maps, but may not be supported. Adoption. exFAT is supported in Windows XP and Windows Server 2003 with update KB955704, Windows Embedded CE 6.0, Windows Vista with Service Pack 1. Windows Server 2008, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows Server 2008 R2, Mac OS X starting from 10.6.5. Companies can integrate exFAT into a specific group of consumer devices, including cameras, camcorders, and digital photo frames for a flat fee. Mobile phones, PCs, and networks have a different volume pricing model. Microsoft has entered into licensing agreements with BlackBerry, Panasonic, Sanyo, Sony, Canon, Aspen Avionics, AudioVox, Continental, Harman, LG Automotive and BMW. A Fuse-based implementation named Fuse exFAT, or exFAT Fuse, with read-write support is available for FreeBSD and multiple Linux distributions. A kernel implementation has also been released, written by Samsung. It was initially released on GitHub unintentionally, and later released officially by Samsung in compliance with the GPL. None of the solutions can become an official part of Linux due to the patent-encumbered status of the exFAT file system. An implementation called exFAT file system, based on Fuse exFAT, is available for Amiga OS 4.1. Proprietary read-write solutions licensed and derived from the Microsoft exFAT implementation are available for Android, Linux, and other operating systems from Paragon Software Group and Tuxera. XC Files is a proprietary, full-featured implementation, intended to be portable to 32-bit systems. RTFS is a full-featured implementation for embedded devices. Two experimental, unofficial solutions are available for DOS. The loadable USB exFAT driver requires Panasonic's USB stack for DOS and only works with USB storage devices. The open-source exFAT executable is an exFAT file system reader, and requires the HXDOS extender to work. There are no native exFAT real-mode DOS drivers, which would allow usage of, or booting from exFAT volumes. Mac OS X Snow Leopard 10.6.5 and later can create, read, write, verify, and repair exFAT file systems.